now one of the Republicans calling for Robert Mueller to be fired. Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz. Good to see you, Representative. So you say he's got to go. Why?
Well, the context of this investigation demonstrates a tremendous amount of bias. If you look at just the timeline, Robert Mueller was interviewing, wanting to get his old job back as the head of the FBI on the 16th of May. Rod Rosenstein then walked him out of that interview, and within 24 hours, Rosenstein appoints Mueller to go and investigate the president. Mueller then populates his team with people who dislike the president. Over half of them gave money to Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, or both. And the number 2 person in this investigation, Mr. Weissman, actually attended Hillary Clinton's non-victory party. So there are a lot of things that evidence bias to me, but what's most important about President Trump's interview, these are the actions of an innocent man. He goes on the record, on a recording, to say, no collusion, ask your questions. I think the president demonstrated his innocence, and it's time to wrap this up so it doesn't become a real dampening feature on the great 2018 we can have in this country.
Well, you know, it has become very political, and that's perhaps the scariest part of this. I mean, if Russia wanted to mess with us, shall we say, they've been successful in at least everyone's upset now, everyone's concerned, and both sides are fighting with each other. So I understand you want Mr. Mueller to resign, but is there anyone, Representative Gaetz, that you would be okay with leading that probe? Or does the probe itself need to go away?
Well, I think that if there is evidence of collusion, let's see it. If not, let's move on as a country. But if you're asking whether there's anyone who would be qualified to be independent, I think you could at least start by not appointing a person that was passed over trying to get their own job back within 24 hours of their appointment as special prosecutor. I think that if you're picking a number 2, there are a lot of talented prosecutors in our federal system. Could we maybe start with someone who didn't attend Hillary Clinton's victory party? And oh, by the way, when we're drafting investigators into the probe, can maybe we not have someone like Peter Strzok, who has demonstrated excessive pro-Hillary Clinton bias and anti-Donald Trump bias? Those things taint this investigation. They prove that no successful prosecution will come from this investigation of the president. And I think that it's refreshing that the president welcomes a conclusion to this so that we can get on with the important work we have to do for the American people.
I think everybody would like a conclusion, but I think everybody still has a lot of questions. And it's not just whether or not the president had colluded during his campaign with the Russians. It's what exactly Hillary Clinton may or may have not done, and her campaign with the Russians. I mean, you go back to that dossier, Representative, and it's clear that the Russians may have actually had a hand in that one. And that kind of misinformation that possibly our law enforcement took seriously enough to potentially issue wiretaps. I mean, that's where it starts to really break down. And I think on both sides, a lot of questions need answering.
No, I completely agree. There are things that we absolutely know, and then there are areas where we still need answers. We absolutely know that the DNC paid a company to pay Russians to tell lies about the president. We also absolutely know that Hillary Clinton had complete command and control over the DNC. That's not what Republicans say. That's what Donna Brazile says. We still don't know whether or not the FBI was working with the DNC to buy that dossier, and we don't know whether or not it was used as an intelligence document to authorize wiretaps against the president's team. That's why the work that Chairman Devin Nunes is doing is so important. He's issued subpoenas, but the Department of Justice and the FBI have been recalcitrant. It's almost like Jeff Sessions needs to change his middle name from Beauregard to Disregard, because too many people at the FBI and at Justice have been disregarding the very legitimate requests from Congress to get information to answer these questions for the American people.
All right, before I go, should the president fire him?
I think that the Attorney General should fire Robert Mueller. The president should keep his hands off of it, do exactly what he's doing, but we need the Attorney General to do his job, acknowledge the fact that there's excessive bias, and then act on it.
Thank you so much, Representative Gaetz. Good to see you tonight.